Good afternoon, everybody. Welcome to The Real Report. We have a heck of a lot of things to cover. We're going to be talking about the U.S. economy, from retailers to Americans drowning in debt, the White House recommending the digital dollar, U.S. gas producers, energy, and the, quote, climate emergency. And winter is not just coming, but it's already here. Woke up to a nice 40-degree morning today, and then we're going to wrap up with news from around the world. There is a lot. Whether you guys are commuting to or from work, or you guys are at home listening, shout out to all of you. Happy Friday, and let's get into it. Why are Walmart and other major U.S. retailers canceling billions of dollars in orders as summer comes to an end? Well, Walmart is admitting that it has canceled billions of dollars in orders as we approach the upcoming holiday season. It's usually not the case. Target has also canceled more than $1.5 billion in orders. Kohl's, Under Armour, same thing. Do they believe that the economic activity during the months ahead will be much lower than they originally anticipated? Certainly looks so, as the FedEx CEO, he said just that. He believes a recession is impending for the global economy. That's right, the FedEx CEO. FedEx missed estimates on revenue and earnings in its first quarter, and you guys probably saw the stock absolutely deflate over the last week. It's not looking good. Americans are drowning in long-term credit card debt. This is from a survey. Particularly revolving credit was through the roof, as tapped-out consumers relied on credit cards to make ends meet. We all know how that ends, and it's not good. Credit card balances increased by a whopping $46 billion from last year, becoming the second biggest source of overall debt last quarter. And imagine this quarter. Student and car loans hit all-time new highs in the first quarter. 60% of credit card debtors have been holding this type of debt for a year. Think about that. Holding the same debt revolving for a year, up 50% from a year ago. And those holding debt for 2 years is up 40% from 32%. According to Online Credit Card Marketplace. That is astronomical. Down here it says total consumer debt rose $23.8 billion to a record $4.64 trillion in debt. That is insane. And on top of it all, the White House recommends creating a digital dollar. The Biden admin outlined plans for crypto regulation on top of it. The White House released its first ever framework for the regulation of digital assets. One suggestion includes the potential formation of the U.S. Central Bank Digital Currency, the CBDC. It's coming. The guidelines are a response to Executive Order 14067 issued March 9, 2022. Framework represents ways to make digital transactions easier, to crack down on, quote, fraud, and I believe they said terrorist financing as their classic excuse. So keep an eye on that as we keep getting new iterations and little bits leak through the cracks on what all is going to be entailed. Of course, they're also saying protecting consumers and businesses, and they can do that with the CBDC. It's more efficient, provides a foundation for further technological innovation, facilitates faster cross-border transactions, and is environmentally sustainable. Thank Jeebus. U.S. gas producers struggle to meet demand. Now this one is going to be pretty tough winter, not only for Europeans, but at the same time, exports are running record rates as new LNG liquefaction terminals meet soaring demand from imports in Europe and Asia. The approaching winter, persistent scarcity has forced front-month futures prices up to more than $8 per million British thermal units, more than double the seasonal average for 2011 to 2020. Point is, energy's going through the roof, and it's going to be harder to acquire. The lights are going to go out, not because of a lack of fuel, though. It's going to go out because nobody can afford the energy. U.S. shale drillers are struggling to meet demand for gas from domestic generators, as well as customers in Europe and Asia, scrambling for replacement supplies following Russia's invasion of Ukraine. Americans to suffer costly winter with heating electric bills, a lot of pain. I've been saying this for a while. We're only about 6 weeks behind whatever happens in Europe. All you have to do is take a look at my video on France, getting to the point where they had to shut the lights off to the Eiffel Tower. UK households talking about $5,000 minimum for their heating this winter in cost. And a lot of countries Like Germany, rolling blackouts in the middle of winter. You have people scrounging for firewood in the forests. True story. Average household in the U.S. is going to pay 17% more this winter to heat their property, reaching a 10-year high of about $1,200 per home. Electricity bills would go up with the price expected to rise 7.5% from last year. And frankly, it's going to be a lot worse than that. They're saying filter into higher electricity costs as 39% of our electricity is generated from natural gas. Also hopping into military, more senior airmen, fewer overall enlisted expected in the next few years. The E4 Mafia is about to get a few new members. Senior airmen are set to make up the Air Force's single largest enlisted group, growing from 19% to 25% of all enlisted billets by 2025 as a result of the service's short-term plan to curb mid-level promotions. I did a video on this as well. They haven't met the recruitment numbers. They're lowering standards across the board. This isn't just a problem in everybody wants to talk about Russia mobilizing and conscripting, but the truth of the matter is here domestically we can't reach recruitment numbers either. And a nice one here on top of all the energy problems. The International Energy Agency demands worldwide lockdowns to meet climate goals. The International Energy Agency has demanded governments worldwide essentially lock down to public to cut down the use of oil and meet climate change targets. We're in this together, guys. To be blunt, the ordinary hardworking man and woman is being brainwashed to believe that the planet is heading for disaster. It is their fault, and they must change their behavior in order to save the world, but this couldn't be farther from the truth, and I'm going to leave it at that. Raisi tells the world Iran is ready to fight for its nuclear program. And back onto climate, massive cold front to slam Australia. NASA used to say CO2 would have to increase 10 times to achieve a 2.5 degree rise in temperature. But what about a drastic drop in temperature? That's what they're not covering. Here's another one. Frost sweeps France. Coldest summer night ever recorded in northern central Italy. Chilliest September 18th for the Netherlands. New study finds there is no climate emergency. That sunspot has resurrected. Hopefully I don't get a misinformation warning for saying that, but the facts are the facts. Things are actually colder, and we're headed into a grand solar minimum, so take a look at that. The Earth is going to be cooler and wetter for the next few decades. September frost swept through the plains of central France over the weekend, ground frost as well as air frost below 2 meters. Monthly low temperature records have been set, including at Brest, although many of these new benchmarks won't officially stand out due to a change of location at the stations. Anyway, point is, it's not getting warmer. And another one, Monte Rosa, Italy, logs earliest sub-4 Fahrenheit ever. It's September, guys. Sees rare September snow. Brisbane's coldest winter on record. Polar cold not done with Australia just yet. Rapidly growing sunspot. Keep an eye on that. Hopping into global news, we're going to try to crank through these because there's a lot of headlines and they're kind of all over the place. Russian invasion has cost Ukraine $1 trillion in damages. Iran protests could be the start of big change, rights groups. Separatists say 6 killed by Ukraine shelling on Donetsk market. Putin ally, 55 servicemen freed and swapped with Ukraine. Germany ready to take in Russian deserters. Turkey could cut off Russian mirror payment cards. That's from Erdogan. Turkey's weighing whether to stop processing transactions made using Russia's mirror payment system after receiving repeated warnings. Fat Leonard, fugitive in a U.S. Navy scandal, captured in Venezuela. Orban wants EU sanctions on Russia lifted by year-end. Assault on courageous Iranian women is an attack on humanity, Germany says. Iran unveils new medium-range missiles. U.S. sanctions Iran morality police after woman's death. There's a lot of crazy stuff going on in the Middle East right now. Hong Kong arrests doctors' patients for that thing, exemption fraud. Iran president interview scrapped over headscarf demand. Russian FM rejects Western accusations on Ukraine at Security Council. UK's package to cap energy prices will cost $60 billion for the 6 months from October alone. Ukraine war drives Israel immigration surge. powerful explosion reported in Kabul. U.S. President Biden meets Pakistan PM Sharif at reception hosted by POTUS. Russia says some 10,000 volunteers to fight in Ukraine after they started their foreign recruitment. EU Commission President on the upcoming elections in Italy, where a right-wing victory is expected. War crimes committed in Ukraine from UN investigators. Chinese and Ukrainian foreign ministers meet in New York. U.S. aircraft carrier arrives in South Korea to deter North Korea. Marshall Islands halt negotiations with U.S. over nuclear testing. Eurozone downturn deepens, raising recession fears. Putin invaded to put decent people in Kiev, says Italy. Pound hits 37-year low at a $1.12 as recession fears grow. 36 dead in Iran protests over young woman's death. Russia holds breakaway polls in Ukraine. They had about 15% voter turnout so far. U.S.-China top diplomats to meet on high tensions over Taiwan. So now we have China-Taiwan headlines back in the mix. CIA chief says, "I'm no Jason Bourne. I drive an old Subaru." Glad to know the CIA is just like all of us. We're still in the tunnel, WHO chief says over that C-19. Hot gas bubble spotted spinning around the Milky Way black hole. Iceland arrests 4 over terror plot. Czechs say no visas for Russians fleeing call-up. U.S. oil contract WTI falls below $80 on recession fears. Ukraine says recaptured territory in the east as annexation polls open. 3 dead in explosion fire at an Argentine oil refinery. Dow Jones dropped below 30,000 points. Video shows why you can't slap women in Iran, as man learned the hard way as a crowd swarmed around him after he struck a woman in a headscarf. Japan to lift COVID restrictions on foreign tourists' arrival. Belgium shuts down nuclear reactor despite energy doubts. There's a great headline for you. Belgium on Friday will push through with a decade-old plan to shut down a nuclear reactor, despite calls for a rethink given fears of power. They want you to freeze to death. That's the takeaway. Kiev says civilian killed in Russian attack on Odessa with Iranian drone. Watch, there's a lot of really crazy footage of the new kamikaze drones being used. Ebola deaths in Uganda climb to 4. Pound hits new 1985 low under $1.10. Finland significantly restrict entry of Russians. U.S. expands access to internet services for Iran. First nuclear reactor in Belgium will be shut down today despite high power prices due to a law on nuclear phase-out. So another place, Belgium, on top of Germany, shutting down nuclear power. That is. Israel no longer partner for peace. Palestinians. Police responding to an active shooter report at Princeton High School in Cincinnati, Ohio. Iranians take to the streets in support of hijab headscarves. World Bank chief says won't quit over climate denial row. German government to set up new department for energy security and economic stability amid the energy crisis. I think that equates to, comrade, you've used too much energy. Bang. Career prosecutors have recommended against charging Rep. Matt Gaetz in sex trafficking probe. Estonian Prime Minister warns that Russia could be preparing to disconnect the 3 Baltic countries from its electricity grid, leading to potential blackouts. Well, Discord's broken now, so we're going to wrap that up there, folks. If you guys learn anything new, make sure and leave a like, comment down below, and subscribe. I'll see you guys in the next one. Happy Friday.